There were several circumstances surrounding the establishment of the United Nations. The first one was fear of death and destruction. The second was the use of lethal weapons. And the third was the failure of League of Nations. And the fourth was to promote peace and security in the world. These all factors were caused by the Second World War and its prolonged time period of about 6 years. The United Nations organization was formed in 1945 and India was also one of the founding members in it. The milestones in formation of United Nations. Number 1, the Atlantic Charter, the Washington Declaration, the Dumbarton Oaks Conference, the San Francisco Conference, and the birth of the United Nations. Composition of the United Nations. Membership. The objectives and purpose of the UNO to save succeeding generations from warfare, to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relationships among the nations, and to establish justice and respect for international law, to create faith in human rights, to promote social progress, to harmonize and coordinate the actions of nations. The principal organs of the United Nations: General Assembly, the Security Council, International Court of Justice, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, and Secretariat. Now let us discuss these things in detail. The Atlantic Charter, which was the one of the premier causes of formation of United Nations organization, was the charter or the mutual agreement among the nations in which they agreed to respect each other's territorial sovereignty and to each other's peaceful settlement of all the disputes, and to encourage cooperation among nations with a view to ensure post-war reconstruction and economic progress. The Washington Declaration of 1942 was devised by President Franklin Roosevelt. It was first used when on 1st January 1942 the representatives of 26 nations signed the United Nations declarations at Washington. The Dumbarton Oaks Conference. The representatives of Britain, America, Russia, and China met from 21st August to 24th September 1944 at an estate known as Dumbarton Oaks near Washington. At this conference, the draft of UN Charter was formulated. The San Francisco Conference and the birth of the United Nations. Deliberations began at San Francisco in April 1945 to finalize the UN Charter, and the conference was attended by representatives of 50 countries. The UN Charter was signed by the 50 participating nations on 26th June, the last day of the conference. Poland was allowed to sign later on, and it was required that the UN would be established after the charter was ratified by the five big powers: Britain, America, Russia, France, and China, and majority of the remaining 46 original members. The charter came into force on 24th October 1945 when information was received that the requisite number of states had ratified it. October 24 is celebrated as the United Nations Day throughout the world. India is one of the original members, 51 original members of the United Nations. The headquarters of United Nations is in the New York City, United States of America. The European office of the United Nations is in Geneva. The flag is light blue in color and portrayed with white in its center is the UN emblem, a polar map of the world embraced by twin olive branches. Olive is the symbol of peace and friendship in European mythology. The United Nations is financed by the contribution from member states. They contribute to the budgetary expenses and the working capital fund on a scale determined by the General Assembly each year on the recommendation of the Committee of Contributors.